Let's look at this. So what are the different options, right? We have created so far is an on-demand. Whatever we created, whenever we need, we bring in machine up and running, which is a on-demand instances. What is the use case? Something you want to run for a very short time, a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours, then you don't want, right? And then you must know like how much it's going to cost, right? Per hour, it's going to cost this much. It's a predefined, a predictable pricing, right? Then you bring up an on-demand instance, right? The other type, the second type is called reserved. What is a reserved? I go and purchase this machine, rent it for a longer period. For 1 year, this will be up and running only for me, right? I go and reserve it. Minimum 1 year, your plans to 1 year to 3 year, right, and beyond. Okay. So whenever you reserve it for 1 year or 3 year, it's going to save a lot of cost for you. Okay. And as again, you can also purchase something called scheduled reserved instances. Very important, right? So if you have a workload which runs on every Saturday at 5 p.m., then you purchase a reserved instance which will start running exactly at the time, right? Okay. That's what they're given, right? Here they give example of Thursday 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Right? So the other option here given is a spot instances. The spot instances, if you are into share trading or like a bidding, IPL bidding, if you understand the sports bidding, right? People will bid on it, right? So you have a EC2 pool, yeah, a set of spot pools, right? Spot instances reserved by AWS. Okay, say that you have 100 spot instances per region in that region, and the average price, right? This will be like a $0.0037, right? This is the current price. Based on the demand, you'll go and bid for it. I have to bid a little higher than this to get my machine, right? So I bid for like something like 0.004, right? So this price is higher than this, so the machine is allotted. But what happens, this current price is driven by the overall demand, the people, the other price that people are putting, right? For example, there are 100 instances. There are like one instance which you bought for 0.004, right? Similarly, if you take an average, that defines your current price of your spot instances. If your spot instance price goes above 0.004, right? Currently, you're given $0.004, right? If it goes beyond that, what happens? Your instance will be terminated. If the current price goes above your quoted price, then that machine will be taken out of you. You will get a 2 minute notification, only 2 minutes notification saying that this machine will be terminated because the current price has gone above your bid price. Okay, I'll switchly come back and I'll switch and show you the other option. Sorry. So when I come back to the other one right here, there is an option, right? Purchasing option here, which is on the step number 3. It says the request spot instances. As you could see, in AP South 1A, the price is 1005. Okay, what I can do is I put a maximum price here, which is 0.11. That's it, little higher than this, right? So the machine will be allocated. The moment my current price on this availability zone goes above, for example, if this is like an 0.12, then this is greater than, right? So this is greater than, sorry, this is greater than the actual price. So what happens? This particular machine will be terminated. and be given to somebody else. So what are the use case? When do you want to use it, right? You want to use an machine whenever you want to go for a spot instance, right? That will be normally used on a very short time, one-time workloads, okay, or any workloads which can be restarted without doing any work. For example, if you are creating an extract file you are creating out of a table, there are like 1 million rows. So in between, this happened, right? You are extracting a simple one, right? So it's a table with 1 million rows, right? You are extracting that into a extract txt. This is a job which I'm running on a spot instance. So on middle of this operations, right? This processing is happening. What happens is the machine has gone down here, right? It's a terminator. So only 50% of the work has been done, right? So what you can do is you can again go back and request another spot instance, restart the job, and 1 million record will be overwritten. And this is a completely restartable work, right? Although that, yeah, there are some work done and you lost that operation in between, there is no harm. You can always go back and restart the copy and create another file after your spot instance is up and running. So obviously, these are called kind of a fail-safe workflows. Right? So spot instances, you always go and run whenever you have a fail-safe workload, something you can restart without having any impact. Okay, so what is a good strategy? If I'm a solution architect, I need a lot of instances of my ETL and other stuff, batch processing and other stuff. You normally go and do a mix match, right? A good amount of on-demand instances whenever you see there is a need for to add additional instances, right? And whenever you know that there are very basic, I need 2 web servers, 1 database server, bare minimum, and I'm going to keep it for 1 year or 3 years, then you go for a reserved here. Right? And also the spot instances whenever you have an fail-safe workloads. Right? So you mix match all of it to optimize the cost and performance so that your EC2 will work at the same time. It will be cheaper as well. Okay. So how many of you attended the class, initial class, I think, right? So normally the questions will be, there'll be a hint on the question when you go for exams, whether you will optimize it for performance. You will create for more security, right? And you'll be doing it for cost optimization, or you'll be creating solution for high availability, right? You should see these hints, right? The solution is for high performance, or the solution is for a high availability, or the solution is for cost optimization, or is the solution is for a high secure application, right? Based on that, you will start answering questions differently from each questions, right? First thing is when you're going and attending exam, there will be tricky questions coming in, but remember, it should be for any one of it. They will have a hint given in the question. So if you really need a high availability server, what will be your solution? Or if you need to optimize the cost, if you have to reduce the cost, what will be your solution? So they'll give you a hint to the question itself. So based on that, you will choose a right answer, right? So here spot instances again comes in the cheaper storage and fail-safe workloads. So is what you need to remember. Here is spot answer. So you can also ask the questions, where how do I go and see the reserved instances, right? So coming back here all the way to an EC2 console. On the left side, if you see, you have spot requests, right? The same thing what you just saw already. In the left menu, you have something called spot request, right? You go and request for a spot instance, right? And other option, savings plans, and reserved instances. Savings plans are something other than EC2. You also buy storage, network capacity, and a lot more services, right? When you purchase multiple services together, you will get a savings plan for 1 year or 3 years. Okay, and reserved instances where you can go and reserve instance, right? Click on purchase reserved instances, right? You choose a platform, tenancy I'll explain a little later. What any classes that you choose, convertible or standard, normally you go for a standard, right? The instance type is T3 micro. Again, term is like I want for 3 years, right? And there are three different payment options. You can pay everything upfront, right? Or you can just say partial upfront. Yeah, 50% of amount you can pay upfront, or no upfront will be converted into kind of monthly payment, right? Every month you'll pay the agreed amount. Okay. So this is your purchase option to purchase a reserved instance. Okay. Then it brings in another concept called dedicated host. I'll explain the dedicated host, right? And dedicated host, right? So what is a dedicated host? This is all, there are two types of virtualization, right? We have talked about it in the previous classes if you are there. There's a para virtualization and fully hardware virtual machine, hardware register virtualization, right? So whenever you request for EC2 instance, this all have an underlying hardware platform which is shared with everybody else. It's not only for you, right? For example, this is an underlying hardware platform. Right? So you're purchasing a EC2 machine here, right? And this machine uses the same hardware platform. Like if Raj is purchasing a EC2 machine, same time Sam is also purchasing a EC2 machine, right? The both machines are spinned up or virtualized using the same AWS platform. Okay, this is what brings a concept called dedicated host, right? If you buy a dedicated host, what will happen is for company ABC, you will get the entire dedicated hardware platform where you can spin up your EC2 here, right? And it will be different from others. Right. So how do I allocate a dedicated host? It's all highly premium services. You could see, click on allocate dedicated host, you choose the option, then you go by allocate. Means the entire hardware platform, what your EC2 instances are going to use are dedicated only for you, and this will not be shared with others. Okay. So that's what is given here. No other customers will share your hardware. Right. Let's talk about EC2 On Demand. We just talked about whatever we created so far is the On Demand instance. Okay. You will be billed per second. After 1 minute is free, right? The moment the machine is started, 1 minute it is free. After the minute, every second you will be getting billed, right? So for all other, for Windows, for example, you'll be billed per hour based, but for Linux, you'll be billed per second. Okay, but it doesn't have any upfront payment. It's pay as you go, right? No long-term commitment. If you don't like the machine, you can just terminate at any time, right? The second one is reserved instances, which we just talked about. It's covered up to 72% discount compared to your on demand. And you say the minimum of 1 year, maximum you can go up to 3+ years discount, right? And you have three different purchase option, which is no upfront, partial upfront, or all upfront, right? And you have different options there, right? Your convertible reserved instance, scheduled reserved instances we just talked about, right? You have multiple options over there. Okay, and then the other one is the spot instances where you can bid for the prices and look at the use cases. Batch jobs, data analysis jobs, short-term data analysis, a quick image processing, or any distributed workloads, right? Workload with a flexible start and end time. Anytime you can start and stop, you can go and purchase a spot instance, and they are the cheapest options available, which will be 90% cheaper than your on-demand instance. Okay. Dedicated host, again, the entire hardware will be allocated only for you and it will not be shared with anyone else. Okay, and this is very expensive. It's allocated for your account for a 3 year period reservation whenever you go and buy a dedicated host. Okay, then I just explained it. What is the right purchasing option for me? Should I go for on-demand, reserved, spot instance, or dedicated host? Dedicated host is given like we book an entire resort for you. If you are a family of two going to resort, if you don't like people coming in, you purchase entire host there, right? That's how it likes. And it's also given a very good option, right? On demand, right? You go with a plan. Whenever I come and stay, only that I will pay. I will not reserve or anything, right? So again, reserved is like you're planning ahead. You're choosing on second and third of the month, right? For 1 month, I'll be staying with your resort. So that's why I want to reserve it, right? Spot instances is something that people will come there, right? You have 5 rooms available. People will bid for it. So you have to compete with other people. So whoever bids higher, they will get the rooms, right? But the problem there is you will be kicked out anytime. The moment somebody else bid higher and the average room price goes above your bidder limit, you'll be kicked out and that guy will be allowed inside the room. This is a very good, funny option to remember. So what is this on-demand, reserved, and spot instances are there? But right purchasing option is based on the use cases what we have seen, and any good architect will use all the options except a dedicated host unless if it is necessary. You will have a pool of on-demand, reserved, and spot instances in your architecture, and you will use them wisely to get a cheaper option. Okay. Okay. So this screen allows you to display what are the different prices, right? Example, if you're using an M for an intensive um, services where you can go for a on-demand price, which will be like an 10.10 dollars, right? The spot instances will be $0.032, right? Up to 90% off. But if you go for a reserved instance of 12 months, you will get 0.6. Where you go for a 36 months, you get 0.043. And if you buy a reserved scheduled instance, it will be a 0.092, right? The dedicated host is up to higher, and dedicated host reservation, if you reserve that for a 3 years period time, obviously you will get 70% even in that higher price. Okay, that brings us to see the summary of EC2, right? An EC2 instance which contains an AMI, an instance type, CPU plus RAM, then the storage, then security groups, and plus user data. Okay, and virtual firewall, which allows you to add and remove firewall rules to allow the incoming and outbound, inbound and outbound connection, to be precise, right? EC2 user data, where you can create your own script to do additional steps, software installation, and downloading some files and keeping it ready. You can do it when the machine starts, right? SSH allows you to log into the Linux machines. Even Windows 10 and beyond supports the SSH as well. So EC2 instance role, something that I've not really seen it now. I will just quickly see the instance role. Okay. So the last option is purchasing option. On demand, spot, reserved, dedicated host, dedicated instance. Okay. So let's look at the missing one here, which is like a link to IAM role. Why we have to link to IAM role? Okay, so take this example. So I'm going to talk about EC2 and IAM roles. Okay, how it is helpful. Okay, so you are entering a football stadium. Well, for you, my drawing is not up to the mark. Let me clear this. I'm sorry, my fault. Yeah. So you are entering into a football stadium, right? So what happens? So there are three people already here, right? So each of them have something called user IDs, right? So each of them might have a different role, right? Say user A, B, C, right? And user A is entering and he has been assigned a role of a goalkeeper, right? So he straight away goes in here. Like he does have access. He's allowed to touch the ball in hand, right? And user B is a referee, lineman, right? So the other user goes in. He has got his whistle and flag, and he can flag anyone offside. Okay, and user C is the actual player. So he goes in here. Each of them will be assigned a different roles. Okay, so a normal user, right, when you log in, you can play a different role when you go and perform an action, right? So this is nothing but your IAM role. And how does it EC2 is related in IAM role? Because any IAM service, right? Not IAM service, sorry, any service, AWS service like EC2 cannot directly access anything, right? Can it access S3 bucket? No, it cannot. Here, because in S3 bucket always we have to give permissions, right? Where I cannot say, we cannot give explicit permission to EC2 machine directly. Rather, what will I do is, I will give a permission in S3 for an IAM role. Okay, S3 read only. When I create IAM role, I can give that IAM role a full read-only permission for S3 bucket. So what happens? The EC2 machine will go and act as IAM role. And then it reads S3 bucket. Okay. So what happens in between when the EC2 machine should have the IAM role, what we are creating should have a permission called assume role. Right? So this one we already looked at, assume role permission. We also call as a trust policy. Right? So when you create IAM roles, you will create a trust policy so that the EC2 machine can assume the role and perform the operations. It also uses something called a temporary credential. There's a service called security token service. It uses a temporary credential. It doesn't use a permanent credential for you. Okay, so where do I associate my IAM role to EC2? Here it is, I'll show you. So this is my EC2. Remember this launch instance. Third option, step 3. Step 3, if you go and choose this, right, you will see you have to choose an existing IAM role and attach that to IAM machine. Okay. You can also go and create a new IAM role, which will take you to IAM, which we have already completed how to create IAM, how to attach a policy to it. But this IAM role should have EC2. The only condition here is this should have trust policy. This role, what you are using, right, should have a trust policy for EC2 service. Okay. And this should have a permission for S3. For example, if you're an S3, you should have the permission given for read only, at least if you want to access an S3 bucket, right? So this is how the IAM role occurs, and IAM role has to be chosen here. Okay. Right, that clear? I'm going to stop here, and we are almost came to end of the session. I have 5 more minutes to answer any question. We'll continue in the further sessions tomorrow. We'll take it in detail of EC2 EBS, right? So let me quickly show you that as well. What we'll be looking at in the next class is that in EC2, we have these volumes, right? The storage we add, right? So how to create a volume, how to create a snapshot, or how to create an Amazon Machine image. We'll all see that in very detail on the next class. Okay. Do you have any questions for me? Please put it in the chat window or unmute. You can speak to me as well. So, well, Imran, you there? Or Praveen, who's here today?
Yeah, Raj, please go ahead.
Right. I think we don't have any questions for now. We can wind up the session. We completed a good portion of creating EC2 basics and security, and we'll continue the session tomorrow. We'll run up into additional topics.
Sure, Raj.
All right.
Yep, sure.
So thank you so much for joining today. Have a great weekend. Bye.